Happy Halloween and welcome back into the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey, producer Chris Daughtry behind the scenes for today's live show. A lot of injury news. We'll do mailbag. We'll talk Falcons game, which I am kind of adopting a must-win mindset at this point. Like, it's not technically, but boy, you're going to have a really tough time getting to where you want to go with what the schedule sets up if you don't win this one. So who you got? C for the Cowboys, F for the Falcons. Early results are 66% Cowboys. This number's going to keep dropping, I feel like, until they win a damn game. The vibes are low, which is understandable. Who you got? C for the Cowboys, F for the Falcons. Get some shout-outs here in the comments. KCMG say F. Caden's got an F. Malachi's got F. C's from Demetrius, Robert, Brandon, D-Money. TK says, where's my costume? Well, we're doing a different one for Sunday, so I don't want to give it away yet. Michael says F. Brian says F. Christopher, D-Money say C. F's coming in from Karen, Don, Steve, James. There's F minus. See, F's work well for the opposing team because then you're going to give the Cowboys an F as the grade too. So it kind of doubles the meaning there. Hurricane Jason says C. Brian says C. Ronald and Vincent have their C's as well. You're underdogs for a reason, not just because you're on the road, but it is a not confident feeling game. Understandably so. Malachi's got the Falcons by 30. I will say, I think if you're going to win this game, your offense is going to have to score at least 30. Like, I don't really think this defensive matchup sets up well for you at all. Like, you're going to need at least 350 passing yards from Dak, I feel like, to win. Which is a really bad thing to say out loud going into a game because that's how you get pressing and mistakes because you just don't trust your defense. And it's a snowball effect. It's been the disaster of the season so far. So get your votes in. C for the Cowboys, F for the Falcons. Today's show, by the way, is made possible by Game Time. Game Time is a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to only show you the incredible deals on great seats. So don't have to waste time. You do thousands of different tickets. Download the Game Time app today. Create your account and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account. Redeem code CHATSPORTS, ChatSports, for $20 off. That link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show, which is also made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least two players for a shot to them to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Go download the app today over at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 after you play your first $5 lineup. We'll talk injuries on today's show, and unfortunately, in what is very disappointing, if not outright frustrating, doesn't sound like Micah Parsons is going to play in this particular game. My guess is no, that Micah Parsons does not play this week, which is really frustrating because I had harbored hopes about him playing against the 49ers. I had thought he'd be able to make it back in what is really 4.5 weeks since the injury in time for the Falcons game. Hasn't happened. There's a reason why that the range of injuries is not just 4 or just 5. It's 4 to 6 for high ankle sprain, but that sucks and is frustrating because your pass rush is terrible and you desperately need him out there, and he's not. And there's only so much you can do to recover from the high ankle sprain if he's not even, I don't know how close he is. He was on the cords today, which I think is a positive sign that maybe this time next week he's back out there at practice, but I think that's still kind of in the hopeful stage. So will Micah Parsons play this week? Y for yes, N for no. Couple yeses, couple no's. I think the answer is no, unfortunately, on this one. But it is Halloween, so what is your number one Halloween candy? Let me know in the comments. We'll have a non-Cowboys conversation because sometimes I think we need a break even on the show of having to talk about all this bad stuff going on with the Cowboys. Casey's got Swedish Fish. Quality answer. Quality answer. Snickers in there from Steven. Okay. Another Snickers from Robert. Daryl goes candy corn. Do you like candy corn, producer Chris? Are you a fan at all on that?
I don't mind candy corn, but it's not like even in the top 5.
If my mindset with candy corn is if it's there, okay, I'll have some, sure. I'm not going out of my way to pick candy corn.
There's like this weird thing. I don't know if it's nationwide or just the South, but people eat like candy corn and peanuts. I think is a mixture.
That's not that different than trail mix in the end. Like that's kind of just like an extra candy version of trail mix. That's kind of all it is. Musketeers, Rolos, Reese's. Finally, how did Rachel find a Reese's? That's the correct answer.
For Halloween, for sure.
Period. It's the best candy out there.
I'm a Three Musketeers guy myself.
A lot of Three Musketeers and Milky Way conversation around the offices here, and I don't really like. Fine, sure, but like, it's not top 5 for me.
I think Three Musketeers and Milky Ways are definitely top 5. Three Musketeers number 1 for me.
You guys are weird.
I love the nougat.
Okay, if you say so. Skittles, Almond Joy, 100 grand, Heath Bar in there. Man, those look, I'll be honest, when I was a kid and I was going trick-or-treating, that was the candy that just didn't get eaten.
I don't want anything with peanuts in it. Or on it.
Peanut butter, okay?
Peanut butter's fine.
Are you a Snickers fan?
Snickers is okay. It's the only one with peanuts in it that I really like.
Okay.
But like what is it, is it Almond Joys that have peanuts on them?
I think so.
It's like only peanuts? Miss me with that.
Someone says Hershey's. Like, it's a staple, sure, but it's also very boring. It's just chocolate. And I'm not a huge person of chocolate on its own there. Laffy Taffy, okay. Got an instrument in there. Caramel apples with razor blades, just like back in the day we had to get our candy x-rayed. I've always felt that, like, I know that happened. I've always felt that was just like adult panic of like, they're putting razor blades in the candy. Like, but are they really? Like, did it happen one time and everyone freaked out about it? Kind of my guess there. Let's see, Laffy Taffy. I don't like the caramel Reese's that much. My favorite is the white chocolate ones. You normally find those around Christmas. White chocolate Reese's are gas. Warheads, Snickers bar, Skittles, Smarties, peanut M&Ms. Okay. Today's super chat menu is as follows: $20 for a shot, $50 for the beer bong, $500 custom Cowboys jersey. Most hundreds in October gets the MVP jersey. Barring a stunner, it's going to be Anthony McMillan, who's got like a $500 super chat lead at this point. Those are the super chat menus. Well, I'm sure we'll have questions, by the way, during our mailbag on trade possibilities. We always do because the trade deadline is less than a week away. We'll be live for that, by the way. Do you think, though, that the Cowboys will end up making a trade? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Will the Cowboys make a trade? I could see them making a trade, but I could see it being a sell, especially if they lose against the Falcons. I think they're going to get more calls. And this is not an organization that, they've admitted before, they don't like being the ones to make the calls. They want you to call them. Well, if you're 3-5, you might be getting some calls. So will the Cowboys make a trade? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Decent splits on that one.
Do you think the NFL had any kind of thought about making the trade deadline on the election day?
I don't think they cared. Like, honestly, I don't think that they care.
Yeah.
They're like, we're the NFL. Who cares? We got this. Like, gives me an easy distraction. The best part is our long national nightmare is almost over. There's no more political ads we're going to have to deal with. I can't wait. I'm going to have one more shitty Saturday of dealing with that crap. One more, because I don't listen to the commercials during Sunday. Although it's going to be a freaking 1 p.m. game, so I don't have to watch the afternoon game. So 2 more weekend days of dealing with it. Ugh, hate it. It's just obnoxious. They also have the CFP rankings that day. So just a hell of a Tuesday of things I care about a lot more than anything else. So the goal of every live show is still that 50% like ratio. So if you haven't already, do us a favor and like the video. We're at just under a quarter on that front. You should always be liking the videos. Please and thank you, obviously, as part of that. But helps us continue to grow, get more eyeballs on us, and again, more subscribers, more views, more everything. We can keep building, expanding studio spaces here. So like that video if you haven't already. Coming up on today's live edition of the Cowboys Report, we will break down some Cowboys injury news. We'll check in with where things sit across the board on that. A mailbag for you. Get your questions in right now via hashtag Cowboys or skip the line altogether and super chat. And we will have a Cowboys versus Falcons preview. It's pretty noteworthy matchups that some do not favor you, some do, in a way that they didn't really favor you against the 49ers. All come live here on the Cowboys Report. Of the multiple injuries we're going to talk about on today's show, several I think are worth monitoring throughout the week. That's DaRon Bland, if he's going to be able to go, with maybe some concerns around both Bland and Micah Parsons. If Trevon Diggs can get back to practice on Friday, did not practice today, at least to the open media portion. Linval Joseph, Eric Kendricks, Zack Martin might be on a better trend from that injury status, but it's not great still. The Cowboys have not gotten the health that I think they've been hoping for, especially on the defensive side of the football. Now, we have passed 200,000 subscribers here on the Cowboys Report. A big thank you to every single person who has already subscribed. Still, a lot of you are not subscribed. Let's change that. Hit that sub button right now, youtube.com/@CowboysTV. Now, first up on the injury notes, good news on Brandon Aubrey. The jury duty he was a part of has wrapped up its case. No more concerns there. There was never any concerns about him not being available because there's no jury duty on Sunday. And he's not sequestered, so he's fine. So Aubrey will be available for this matchup. No surprises there. Don't think it's nearly as positive on the Micah Parsons front here, as he has not practiced since suffering that high ankle sprain. This week feels unlikely. If he can get back in some capacity on Friday, it gives him a chance, but outside of very few exceptions in the past, if you don't practice Wednesday, Thursday, and you're coming off a multi-week injury, it's very rare for the Cowboys to put you back out there, which is super disappointing, I think, for all parties involved, because you miss Micah Parsons. That's very clear. Pass is terrible right now. And look, I got my hopes up that, hey, maybe he'd be able to have a quicker recovery time frame and get back by the Niners game, or at least the Falcons game. It's not the case. So now you're going to be pushing 4.5 weeks once you get to Sunday. And since Micah went down with that injury, you're still in the normal recovery timeline for a high ankle sprain for the NFL, but you're just not quite there yet. And again, that puts your pass rush in a really bad spot. We'll talk about this on our preview video too. You don't have the horses. You don't have the personnel because you're playing your backups to make it work with your pass rush group. That's why you basically have to blitz, or you're really not getting anything resembling consistent pressure out of your front four and front 5 or 6 because you're just not talented enough. So I think the answer is no, but maybe you believe in miracles. Do you think Micah Parsons will play this week? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments of today's show at the pinned comment, especially if the ad comes here on YouTube. Next up is DaRon Bland. And while you had the good news that Bland was able to return from injured reserve, they activated him on Tuesday, his last eligible day to come back. It doesn't sound good about him being able to play in this one. He still has not yet practiced, and that's highly troubling, highly concerning. Look, he hasn't practiced since October 10th. There was clearly a setback. Stephen Jones said there was a minor setback in terms of the injury, like the soreness. Clearly was worse than that. Like, you don't miss basically 2 full weeks of practice, because really almost three full weeks now, of hey, I had some minor soreness. Like, no, there was a more severe setback. I don't know when he's going to play. Don't know when he's going to be back. This week seems highly unlikely. Maybe next week. But it sucks that this injury just hasn't gone the way it's needed to go for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, what is also concerning is the status of Trevon Diggs. He has a calf issue. Now, there's a couple different things to try to sort out here. He didn't practice on Wednesday. Wasn't out there for the publicly media available portion on Thursday. So I am worried about the cornerback room in general, because even if Diggs goes, and I'm hopeful he still can, but it is hope. It's not confidence, it's hope. That means he's probably not 100%. And that would also raise concerns. They've got some speed. They've got some really good receivers. You need him out there because you're bad at cornerback behind him anyway. Now, Diggs did meet with the media on Wednesday, which I took as a positive sign, because unless, there's no details on what your injury are, you normally don't do that unless you're going to be able to play, like your BOA. And the calf wasn't wrapped. It wasn't on ice. It wasn't in a boot, so it makes me feel more comfortable about it. Maybe the reason why Diggs with me was to handle it better. And I will give Diggs a lot of credit here, kind of off topic on the injury stuff. I will give him a ton of credit, a ton of praise, his flowers, for handling the interaction with Mike Leslie how he did. Giving Mike a can of D's nuts is the funniest thing we'll probably see from this Cowboys team. Mostly because there's not that much fun stuff going on, but that is exactly how you do it. You both sides man up. You say, I made a mistake, everyone's fine. It's all water under the bridge. That is how you handle it. So I will give Diggs credit on that front, but now I need him to play on Sunday because your cornerback room is in dire straits without him. Who is more likely to play? TD for Trevon Diggs, DB for DaRon Bland. Who is more likely to play in this particular matchup? Get your votes in for me in the comments section of today's show. TD for Trevon Diggs or DB for DaRon Bland. Let's stick with the corners here. Caelen Carson. And I don't really know what's going on here at this point because I don't think injuries is why he's been out. Like, he's been on the injury report with a shoulder injury, but he's been a full participant for 2.5, almost 3 weeks now, and Cowboys aren't playing him. I feel like he got benched. That's what I feel like. That he lost his job to Emmanuel Rouarier and hasn't been playing. Now, of note, you might need him this week because you got the DaRon Bland, probably not going to play status. We'll see about Trevon Diggs overall. Jordan Lewis is in there in the nickel. I got 3 other healthy corners if Carson's healthy. Andrew Booth, Israel Mukuamu. And they've mostly played Izzy as a slot guy. So, again, that's why I need one of Diggs or Bland to go, because I really don't want to have to start both Carson and Booth with Rouarier out for the season. The cornerback room in general has me very worried for this upcoming matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It is available in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. It is the only real money daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. So your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. Your player leaves in the first half, does not return. Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. One of the Prize Picks slates this week, Kyle Pitts, more than receiving yards because, did you see what George Kittle did last week to the Dallas Cowboys? Saquon Barkley, more than yards on the ground, and just stay half pass touchdown. So 1 total from C.J. Stroud. Or you could ride with my Sunday quarterback running Prize Picks. Caleb Williams and Kyler Murray, more than yards on the ground. There's a ton of different lineups you can make. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get that $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's guaranteed, by the way. You don't have to win. You'll get that $50 once you play that first $5 lineup. Moving on now with the injury report. Linval Joseph, back issue. Now, he was back at practice today. We'll see, the exact details of the filming, limited versus full, but he was out there, which is good. Not that Linval Joseph has been a great football player, but I don't have options. I am playing a bad group of defensive tackles because there's no other viable options right now on my roster. I've got Oso Digizua, Mozzie Smith, Mr. 119. He went up, by the way, after that game. It's higher now. It's like 134 out of 135 on PFF. If that makes you feel better, it shouldn't. It does not at all. Carlos Watkins, Linval Joseph, it's not a good group. It's not. That was known going into the year. That's why half their snaps have come from guys they signed or added after August. Now, of note, Jordan Phillips continues to be a full participant at practice after he didn't return from IR after his wrist injury. He was awful the first 2 weeks, so we'll see if he gets to play. Certainly worth monitoring, but you already traded for him, gave that pick up, so we'll see. Zack Martin is next up here as he battles his shoulder injury. Had the back issue previously, then the shoulder this week. Seems like he maybe had he's normally going to wrestle on Wednesday anyways, but the shoulder was bothering him. So, multiple things at play here. I am a bit worried about Zack because this is one of the greatest Cowboys ever. He's a Hall of Famer. All of those things are true. He's not playing like that. He's just not. He's not. I've seen him in a way I've never seen him really have this happen before. He's getting bullied a little bit. He's on the ground in pass protection. That doesn't happen to Zack Martin. That's not who he is. He's not the same guy. Now, that doesn't mean he's the worst football player ever. Doesn't mean he's still not one of your best 5 or one of your best 3 still. But, his offensive line is an ecosystem. There's chemistry. There's cohesion. It's probably not an accident that I would argue the 2 worst games of the year for both Zack Martin and Terrence Steele have come at the same time in back-to-back weeks, these last 2 weeks. But that right side's not carrying its weight at all. Now, what is your overall concern level right now with the Cowboys? The more recent ones, the new ones, not Sam Williams and Tank Lawrence, etc. What's your concern level? Scale it for me from 1 to 10 in the comments section. Eric Kendricks is next up. He was the NP Wednesday, but I think he was limited on Wednesday. Limited on Wednesday. He'll be fine. Again, limited on Wednesday. Unless you got hurt during the practice, pouring out for John Stevens, you're going to be good to go. It's not 100%. Looked fine in the game. Don't think the shoulder was an issue. Of all your issues on defense, Kendricks probably isn't that high. But then again, it was 2 guys playing at a high level, so he's not one of them. What do you expect? Also of note, Nick Vigil. Look, that foot injury is real. That is going to be bothering him every game this year. Until further notice. He has been a DMP Wednesday. We'll see what he does on Thursdays, Fridays, participation reports. It's clearly bothering him. He's also clearly good enough to still play through it. Mostly on special teams. He's one of the Zimmer guys, one of the Paul Gunther guys too. I think Bones Fossil likes him too on special teams. But again, that's the bottom of the barrel injury concerns. A few more minor notes. Maurice Liufau is off of the injury report as well. No more calf designation, so check off that box. No mention of Rico Dowdle's illness either, which also sets up pretty well for the Cowboys. Having, as we went to on the preview side, maybe a decent chance to have a better ground game this week. It is mailbag time here on the Cowboys Report. So if you haven't already, use hashtag Cowboys or be like Troy and be like Max. We will get to those super chats here in just a little bit as part of the mailbag. But those are your 2 ways to get on. Hashtag Cowboys or super chat. If you have any general questions, concerns, frustrations, fears, anxieties, whatever you want to call it, you can use the hashtag Cowboys to get them in the queue. It's just up to producer Chris to decide if he wants to pick them or not. The super chat menu today as well. $20 for a shot, $50 for the beer bong, $500 the custom Cowboys jersey of your choosing. Most hundreds in October. It's the MVP jersey, which right now is a bit of a runaway for Anthony McMillan. Get your super chats in as we get set up for today's live Cowboys Report mailbag. A super thanks to begin today's Cowboys Report mailbag from Xavier Worthy-Burner, who wishes he was a Cowboy and not a Chief, I'm sure. Dak needs to play better. He's putting too much pressure on himself, forces the ball because of it. Additionally, all we remember is the play that won the game. Turpin catches the ball and we win the game. The 2 picks are less of an issue. Agreed. He also continued, I've also noticed Dak looks uncomfortable. It rattled. Last year was comfortable under pressure and scrambling. Now I worry it's going to be a pick. If there even is someone open, he probably can't get there in time because of the line. It feels like he's throwing into less than 1 yard windows all game. It feels that way because it is. The tight window throw percentage for Dak Prescott this year is higher than any quarterback in the NFL by a pretty significant number. He's at 22.5%. You can go look at other NFL QBs around the league. You can get under half of that. Trevor Lawrence has half of that. Baker Mayfield has half of that. Patrick Mahomes is at 6.7% tight window throw percentage this year. Part of that is schematics. Make no mistake. You've got one guy that's good in contested catch right now. It's Jalen Tolbert. He's the only guy that's done a good job in contested catches. It's funny to me because I thought the 2 best throws of that entire game against the 49ers were not caught. It was the Kevontae Turpin silent throw that was a pure drop, and the Brevin Spann Ford end zone throw, which is a very tough catch to make, but it was in the only spot it could have ever been caught. I thought the worst throw also wasn't caught. It was the triple coverage force to CeeDee Lamb because your schematics suck and you're trying to make the big chunk play and he's pressing. I know that the Cowboys said he's not. He's clearly pressing and forcing the issue because and it's not right. It's a bad mindset. He has to. There's no ground game. The receivers aren't open. The O-line's not doing a great job. It's a lot of little snowball effect things that are happening. He hasn't played well enough. All of these things are true, and that's exactly what you're saying, Xavier Worthy-Burner, and I agree. That came in via Super Thanks, a feature here on YouTube that allows you to donate outside of live videos. Click the thanks icon, edit your message, send in whatever you want to send in. We got a super chat from Troy Daniels, a.k.a. our mod extraordinaire. Looking forward to opening it on Sunday with those bots. We appreciate you, Troy. I went with your prize picks for this week. What do you think of any real trade happening with Dallas? Stephen Jones gave his old borderline, acquisitions of $365 a day business. They will listen if teams call them, which makes me think a sell is more likely than a buy. This upcoming game against the Falcons does matter for that whole conversation, though. Max Finnegan, a.k.a. Max Smash 73. A deal the Jones boys might win. Trade of DeMarcus Lawrence. Jones can play Ravens, Lions, Falcons against each other. Drive up the price. Cowboys get good value. Those teams need defensive end help. The strategy is sound. The specific issue you run into with DeMarcus Lawrence is he might be a full month away from playing again. I don't know how close he actually is to returning. The foot injury was a multi-week foot injury. Borderline multi-month injury. And it's not the easiest recovery for a 260 whatever pound defensive end. You don't often see teams trade for injured players because you don't know when they're going to come back. Now, you might have to do a comp pick or like a conditional pick, which is already kind of driving down your value. So, the logic is sound. It's smart. The injury really complicates things. From Rocky, would a bad loss lead to a fire sale moving guys like Osa, Diggs, etc.? I would put Osa and Diggs actually in 2 separate buckets. A player like Osa Odigizua might not be back next year, and he's not under contract. So those rental players make a ton of sense to sell when you know you're going to try to retool and go back and be aggressive in 2025. If you want to move a Diggs, a Micah, one of those guys, you can wait until the offseason because they're still under contract, and you actually might have better value overall because more teams could potentially be in the market than what are available right now. But guys like Osa, Kendricks, any other veteran rental pieces, your safeties because I don't want them anymore, you could certainly shop those players. So will the Cowboys actually make a trade? Y for yes, or 1 for yes, 0 for no, because it's 1 trade or no trades. Let me know the pinned comment of today's show. Stephen Goltz. I think the game has passed both Mikes by. I don't think they're helping up to date with keeping up to with other NFL teams are doing. There are members of the staff that do that, by the way. We'll talk about it in our preview video. You've seen some of that, like I call it the slot flip motion, where you kind of go with a stack or a bunch set, and you move from one guy inside to the outside, and now it changes who's in the slot and not. They've done some of that. They've done the cheat motion stuff. But I think their overall philosophies, especially McCarthy on offense, I'm more inclined to give a slight pass to Zimmer because they're so decimated on defense. Like, I don't know what you're really able to do personnel-wise. But I saw McCarthy get away from stuff that worked last year and lean into his philosophy stuff. Yeah, I think the game's passed him by. Brian Perry, the Cowboys sign a defensive end. Who are you going to get out there? Like, Jerry's comment about that is wrong for trades. Right about free agency. Who you want out there? Who's good? Like, your defensive end additions are coming. They're named Micah Parsons, Marshawn Elon, and Tank Lawrence. It just might be too little, too late. Brent Workman just tuned in. Do we still suck? You're the worst 3-4 team in the NFL. And if you don't win this one, you're the worst 3-5 team in the NFL. This Falcons game, you can't get the win. If you can't move the ball on offense against this Falcons defense, boy, you're going to be in trouble. Today's show was made possible by Game Time. They got a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to only show you the incredible deals on great seats. Don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. It is curation to make it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. The all-in pricing feature shows your total cost up front, so there are no surprise fees at checkout. And the Game Time guarantee means you will always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create your account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, ChatSports, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Brian, would you consider trading away Zack Martin? If you want to go sell, that's the type of name you need to consider. Because I think this is his last year. I also don't think he's the same player he used to be. He is not the same name brand recognition, name brand talent, future Hall of Famer that we've seen previously. He hasn't played that way, which is disappointing and frustrating, but he's old and banged up. That's why I think there's a real chance he retires after the season. Because you're getting a half-season rental, though, of a veteran football player who's on the decline, I think we can say those things now. I don't know what the value is. There's no comp pick upside for the new team. I feel like you're getting a fifth at best back. I think that's the downside with where you're at and where he's at, which sucks. That's where you go. So what draft pick do you think Zack Martin is worth? Let me know in the comment section of today's show. What draft pick do you think he's worth? Noah Turner says Matt Eberflus for DC, Mike McDaniel for OC. Don't know who your head coach is, but if those guys get fired, I think they'll be very popular DC and OC candidates. I think Mike McDaniel's got a little bit lost in the sauce offensively this year, but he does a lot of creative stuff, better than what Mike McCarthy does, so it'd be an upgrade. Eberflus at one point was the heir apparent to Rod Marinelli. Timing never quite worked out, so I would not be mad at that one either. But both the guys are strong coordinator candidates, depending on who your head coach is. Austin Carey, trade for Azeez Ojulari, Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith. You can call about those guys. Like, I don't think that's a bad idea. Like you're exploring veteran pass rushers that can help benefit you. I don't think that the Cowboys want to buy. And I don't know how Sunday goes. I get it. You're not a contender. You're not. So maybe you keep your powder dry if you actually are going to spend your damn powder next offseason. Like, all those guys help you. Make no mistake about it. You should have made those trades a month ago, 2 weeks ago even. Now it feels a little bit unlikely. Now, we will be live for the NFL trade deadline. Be live on both the Chat Sports and the Cowboys Report YouTube channels. Hit that sub button if you haven't already, youtube.com/CowboysTV. Lenny V23, who do you want the Cowboys to draft in the first round next year? A lot of good options. Depends on where you're drafting and what you've done in free agency. Do you need a corner? Can you get Travis Hunter somehow? Probably not. Have you filled your needs? You can take best player available. That might be Ashton GT at a Boise State. And I will take this stance, by the way, because I know you guys aren't going to like it. If you are just going best players available, the Michigan defensive tackle is names you have to consider. Don't helmet scout. We can all be better than that. Mason Graham's a damn good football player. Probably is going to be there for you anyway, so it's a moot point, but don't helmet scout. Clayton Lockhart. Hey, Tom, can it really be considered tanking if a team just isn't good enough to begin with? That's what we call organic tanking. And that's how you set it up if you want to tank. Because the players on your roster are not going to actively lose games. Because a lot of them are fighting for jobs with this team or future teams. Your coaching staff is not going to actively lose games because they're all on one-year deals. They have to do their best stuff to get a new job. That's why the conspiracy theories of Mike sabotaging, Dan Quinn sabotaging. No, they're not. No NFL coach is tanking their current job to get a different one or spite the owner in an effort to not pay their mortgage. That's not how it works. But if you trade away some good players, then you can organically tank. Carl, does Damone Clark get traded? I think the Cowboys would move on from him if they had an offer or an interest or a good enough offer. He's not playing right now. He's buried as linebacker 4. He's got 2 years left. You can shop that guy, a year and a half left. You can shop that guy. Is there interest? Don't know. Name a player that you guys either want to trade for or trade away. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Byron Joe David, explain the rumors around Ben Johnson as head coach. It's simple. That's the best offensive coordinator in the NFL. And that guy is always going to get head coaching interest. He's had it 2 years in a row, and he's passed on jobs 2 years in a row. Passed the Panthers' job twice. Passed on the Commanders' job. That was his job. He said no. He has been picky because most coaches know they get one shot at it. So they want to try to pick the right spot as long as their stocks are high. His stock is still very high. Biggest issue here is, look, your ownership group doesn't want a first-time head coach. And that's a really stupid mindset to have. Because I'm just going to Google this right now. I'm going to do NFL head coach power rankings. Real quick. Just across the NFL right now. First article I see here. All right, going. Cool. Warren Sharp. Awesome. First list. It's got Andy Reid, who was a former NFL head coach. John Harbaugh. Kyle Shanahan. Dan Campbell. Sean McVay. Matt LaFleur. Mike McDaniel. Kevin Stefanski. Kevin O'Connell. Mike Tomlin. Nick Sirianni. Zach Taylor. Sean McDermott. D'Amico Ryans. And then Shane Steichen tied for 15th. So all but one of your best NFL head coaches, according to that list, and there are exceptions. You can put Jim Harbaugh, Sean Payne, higher if you want to. But the vast majority of NFL head coaches that are the best ones got their jobs the first time with their current team. So to cut out the best options in your talent pool just sounds stupid to me as a philosophy. What the Cowboys like to do. Danielle, time to putting rumors on Sanders, Chubb, Hubbard, ETN. I have talked about that several times this month because those are players on not great teams or they've kind of lost their jobs and they're looking for running back markets. They're available in theory, and the Cowboys are going to get linked to backs. It's logical connections. I just don't think you should get your hopes up there. The Super Chat menu today. $20 for a shot, $50 for a beer bong, $500 for the custom Cowboys jersey. $100 is the most hundreds in October gets you the MVP jersey. All right, let's go back to the non-Cowboys question of the day. It is Halloween. What is the number one Halloween candy? Kristen, you went with Three Musketeers, right? Yeah, Reese's Cups is the correct answer, but that's how I go. Number 1 Halloween candy. Reese's is in there. Kit Kats are fine. I don't mind Kit Kats. That's like solid B candy. It's not an A, but it's solid. Twix is a good candy. Another Reese's in there. Makes sense. Number 1 Halloween candy. Let me know in the comments of today's show. 100-gram bar. Okay. It's not my favorite, but it's just not the way I go about it. Not my go-to. Starbursts are good. Best Starburst flavor, too. It's cherry, by the way. Or red. I don't even care about the flavors. Then strawberry. Seabass. Let's pray no one says York peppermint patties. It's not candy.
I'll give you that. But I love a peppermint patty, man.
Like after you eat like dinner. No, not just like as candy.
Whenever, honestly. Like, I love it when you go to like a Chinese restaurant or something.
Yeah, you're talking about dinner. Talk about dinner.
And they've got the peppermint patties there, man. Oh, I love a peppermint patty, dude.
Do you ever just like eat a peppermint patty as candy on its own? Just like randomly. Not like just like you sitting at home. Let me just grab a piece of candy.
Every now and then, if I'm like going through the checkout line or something and I see the big York peppermint patty, I'll grab one every now and then. Crazy. They're so good.
They're a great after dinner candy.
I'll give you that too.
But they're not like a real candy. Someone said broccoli. All right, now we're just off the rails here. Apples. You're the people that give out like toothbrushes and shit. There's always that one doctor in the neighborhood, the one dentist. Here's a toothbrush. Man, F you. We're not on you right now, buddy. This is a special occasion. We all brush our teeth, okay? This is not about you. Stop giving out toothbrush and toothpaste and floss.
We had one house that we would go to every year that would give out full cans of soda.
That's pretty cool.
Of Cokes.
I like that. That's perfect.
Yeah, it was great.
That's awesome. We get to indulge our sweet tooths. I'm not sure what the proper terminology is there because I know it's teeth, but like sweet teeth sounds wrong still. Maybe it's just sweet tooth and it's just plural that way. I don't know. I'll tell ratio Daniel. I'll tell you what happened. There was a setback for DaRon Bland. That's what happened. That's why he's missed 2 months. There was a setback. He was going to play against Lions. Setback. That's what happened. Lenny V23. If we lose this game, we should shop Martin, Cooks, Diggs, possibly Parsons. Cowboys in offense that's young and explosive. I agree. But I do think players like Diggs and Parsons in particular, guys that are going to be under contract next year. Those guys you probably don't trade right now because you can do that in the offseason if you want to. I probably let those guys stay and ride it out, and then if you want to go down that path, you can do that path in the offseason. It's more of an off-season trade for me. Ratio, setback. You know how you're getting better at something each week? In this case, the health. It's getting better. It's getting better. Well, you re-aggravated the injury. You were making progress, then it got worse again. That's what a setback means. You know, you've made 10 free throws in a row, then you miss 5 in a row. Well, that's your setback. Troy Daniels, I will start this shot by Tom. I got to get more at some point. I like DT round 1. I do think a good running back will fall down in the second round, depending on their position. What do you risk for the Cowboys will be drafting next year? Over under 16 right now. Which is not a good spot to be. Kind of like the worst spot to be, as far as I'm concerned. Kind of not quite good enough for the true elite round 1 grades, but also kind of stuck behind a little bit there. I'm not opposed to DT round 1. I also know that spot can kind of take an extra year or two to really grow and impact more than some other positions. And I question if your organizational scouting strengths are good at defensive tackle. You know, some teams don't draft spots well. Some teams do draft spots well. Maybe you got a bit of a blind spot at DT. It's not fair necessarily, but that's how it tends to go. So Troy, bottoms up. Love to get a nice receiver. Love to get a young, explosive wide receiver. Got to fill all your needs first, though. Love to get pure BPA. Sign 6 guys in free agency. There you go. All right, let's preview Cowboys versus Falcons next. It's Critical game this week for the Dallas Cowboys. They are on the road against the Atlanta Falcons. Who do you have in this one? C for the Cowboys, F for the Falcons. Go vote in the comments right now. Let's talk week 9. It is Dallas on the road against Atlanta. The odds ever-changing as of filming on Thursday. Atlanta -3 that opened at -2. Over-under now jumped up to 51.5. It opened more in the 48s, 49 ranges. So Dallas is the road dog, as they should be. They haven't played well this year. Atlanta has played well as of late, and they've played a lot of one-score games for Atlanta. Wouldn't be surprised if that one happened again. Now, some injuries to watch. Not feeling great about DaRon Bland and Micah Parsons. We'll see if Trevon Diggs and his calf can go. He's missed some practice this week. I think feel better about Linval, Joseph, Zack Martin than where I was on Wednesday, but still some days of practice to go. We obviously filmed these on our Thursday live show, so we'll monitor how things go Friday, how things go Saturday before the Sunday game. The Falcons seemingly mostly healthy as well. Justin Simmons, a hamstring, but he was limited on Wednesday, progressing in the right direction. See about the concussion for J.D. Bertrand. Those are always dicey. Chris Lindstrom has been a bit banged up. Also, much like Zack Martin, not playing at the high level that he used to be. Those are two of the best right guards in the NFL. Not playing the same way that they used to, which has been a bit of a surprise this season. And then Ruka Rororo tweaked his ankle last week. Questionable at best going into the weekend for the Cowboys. For the Falcons, I should say, against the Cowboys. Let's talk matchups to watch here. Number 1, Rico Dowdle and the inside running game against the Falcons' run defense. Now, if you've watched our show for a while, you know that I've had this as a pretty common complaint. I don't like the Cowboys' love of, in their own words now, tight inside zone. That tight zone run scheme, I think, sucks. Here's the thing. The Falcons are not good at stopping runs up the middle. Here are the advanced numbers from NFL Pro, their next-gen stats. They faced 14th most inside runs this season. Despite that, they are allowing the 28th most yards per game up the middle, the 27th yards per carry, so they're bottom there, around league average in explosive runs, around league average in stuff rate. They're near the bottom in EPA per carry, 29th in yards before contact, 11th in yards after contact, and they do it with light boxes. They're not really stacking the box very much. So for a team that wants to run the ball up the middle, this is a game that the opposing team isn't good at stopping that. The problem is you don't run the ball well up the middle. You have the second most inside runs from a rate perspective this year in the NFL. You are 29th in yards per carry. You don't generate explosive runs. You don't get stuffed very much, but it's all just 1 and 2 yard runs. It's all like you're getting 2. You're getting 3. It's all this team gets on these inside runs. They're not good at before contact, not good after contact, and they are facing some of the most advantageous boxes in football. Opposing teams have said, you can't run the ball on us. We dare you to. And the bet's been right. Cowboys have been unable to run the football. Even when they're getting a light box 62.6% of the time. That's insane. You should be able to run the ball in that front. Cowboys aren't getting it. Well, they check into those inside runs. Hasn't worked well at all. Pin comments on today's show. What is your confidence level in the Cowboys beating the Atlanta Falcons? If you can't run the ball on the inside this week, you're just never going to be able to. But overall, your confidence level, let me know. 1 to 10. Matchups to watch. Number 2. It is the Cowboys blitzes against Kirk Cousins. And it's a 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins game. This might be a Kirk O'Chains game. Against the blitz so far this year, he's at 40.67 or 40 of 67 attempts and targets, or completions and targets. That's under 60%, averaging 6.5 yards per attempt. But he's only taken 1 sack this year. Now, quick pressure has happened on about a third of his blitzes so far this season. And the Cowboys, since Micah Parsons went out of the lineup, are tied for the highest rate in the NFL when blitzing for sacks. 17.1% sack rate when blitzing since week 5 is tied for the NFL's best. It is the only way they can get pressure. They're going to have to bring some blitzes again in this one. Couple things about your offense that have struggled this year do set up well against the Falcons. One of them is your offensive line against what is one of the worst pass rushes, in fact, is the worst pass rush in football. The Atlanta Falcons are dead last in both sack rates and they are dead last in pressure rates. Even when blitzing, it's not much better. They get a little bit more pressure and a little bit more sack results. They don't do a good job. Matthew Judon looks a bit more like a good player, not a great player. Grady Jarrett shown sign of decline. They're not getting home at all. So if your offensive line, if they can't hold up, Guyton, Smith, Beebe, Martin, Steele, if they can't hold up against the Falcons, you're in bad shape. This offensive line, frankly, in both the ground game and the passing game, they should be able to do some mauling. They should be able to look like some of the Cowboys' offensive lines of old. That front they're facing is not good. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. They invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money, even if one of your picks doesn't hit. They put their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. You can get your money in as quick as 15 minutes. They also offer Venmo, by the way, now, for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this sports season. No flex play on this one, but I'm riding my boy Harrison Graham's picks here. More than on the rushing yards for Caleb Williams and Kyler Murray in what could be a really good afternoon football game between the Bears and the Cardinals. Download the Prize Picks app today over at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. With the offensive line, in theory, doing a better job, you need your overall passing attack to show up against this Falcons pass defense. The Falcons offense is really good. This game in general strikes me as the type of game where if you don't score 30, you're not going to win the football matchup, which is very concerning because that's how the quarterback has pressed this year. That's why, because it's felt like that in a lot of these games. I got to score 30 or 35 or we're just not going to win. And that's a bad mindset to have. It's the right mindset, but it's bad. It's the snowball effect of like you're going to press, you're going to force stuff. I think that's been the issue for Dak this year. Even more so than previous years, the interceptions are more concerning because not like they're getting drops. I mean, there were drops too, but not on the interceptions for the most part. He's pushed too much. He's pressed too much. Now, great note here from Next Gen Stats. The Falcons defense has allowed 14 catches on 18 passes over 10 yards in that middle third of the field through 8 weeks this season. They allowed 13 all last season, which was the best in the NFL. So the Falcons are not that good on the dig route, on the seam shot route. And unfortunately, your quarterback has also regressed in this area. Now, last year on all 10 to 19-yard throws, that middle third of the field stuff, in both downfield and in the middle, 59% last year, 9.6 yards per attempt, 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He was dealing in that area of the field. The seam shots to Ferguson and Lamb, the deep digs were open pretty frequently. They've not been there this year. Now, teams have sat on it more, but they've stopped calling the seam shot to Jake Ferguson, and Dak is splitting 50% of those throws. It's down. 9.2 yards per attempt, down. 5 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. 4 of them have come on that 10-plus yards in the middle of the field. Hasn't been good enough. Full stop. Now, the schematics suck. O-line is all accurate, too. I want to make that clear. Got to be better. Got to be better. So, will the Cowboys offense wake up this week? They should. If they don't, this is going to be a dicey year, I think. Y for yes and for no in the comments of today's show. Number 5, it is the interior of your defensive line against backup center Ryan Newsill. There's no Drew Dahlman, who was playing really well before he went down and it was placed on IR. But the interior D-line for the Cowboys has been pretty bad. I am waiting on the Osa Odigizua breakout game. I had thought he was going to have a big-time contract year, right? No, he hasn't had it. Carlos Watkins is a jag, as in just a guy. It's a very insulting phrase. Linval, Joseph, Miles Smith have not played well up front. Falcons' interior O-line is not great. That's why they're going to get to the edges. You got to get some penetration from Osa and Mozzie and these guys and force some changes because the Falcons want to run the ball to the outside. They're going to get Bijan going. DTs have to hold up better because that's a bad matchup for you. That Cowboys run defense against Bijan and company, bad. Now, we'll be live for the Cowboys against the Falcons. If you haven't already, make sure you guys are subscribed. Our stream will start at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Kickoff's at 1 p.m. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. Number 5, Jordan Lewis is our 5th player to watch. And I'm gonna do something different here. I'm going to do Jordan Lewis and insert tight end stopper together, which maybe is Donovan Wilson. I would kind of like to see Donovan Wilson get benched, frankly. But that's a conversation we've had already. I don't want to rehash it here. The Atlanta Falcons have the most used personnel grouping in all of football. They run 3 receivers, 11 personnel, almost 91% of the time. There's no real creativity in their personnel packages. It is, we're putting 3 receivers out there, putting Drake London, putting Kyle Pitts for the most part, putting Darnell Mooney. We'll put some Ray McLeod out there. We're going to run 3 receivers all game long, and we're going to see if you can stop us. And the answer's been mostly can't be stopped. Now, the offense has been pretty basic this year. I don't mean that in a negative way, but they do the stuff that they're good at. They go under center. The only under center pass they've had is play action. There's been 0 straight dropbacks from under center. It is all play action when they do it. So it's a tell. Haven't been able to stop them really so far this year. I've been issue against better defense. You're not a better defense, though. One thing the Falcons will do, which you will see, the Falcons do, I call it flip motion. It's the changing of the slot. I don't know what the actual terminology is. It's barely even motion. But you'll see the Cowboys have done it some too. They stole it this year from teams like Atlanta. You'll see kind of like a bunch formation or even just 2 receivers on one side. And they'll put like Darnell Mooney in the slot or Ray McLeod in the slot to start when they break the huddle. And Drake London on the outside. And then what they'll do before the snap, they'll flip London to the slot or they'll put the other guy on the outside. And it changes your rules on defense late and you have to adjust. And it is the slots where the Falcons have some of their most passing success. Drake London has 27 catches for 327 yards and 3 scores in the slot this year. In fact, 57% of his targets have come from the slot. He's been a great power slot for Atlanta. Kyle Pitts, who just had maybe his best game in a long time, gets a lot of slot work as well. 17 catches for 212 yards and 3 scores out of the slot. Well, guess what? Jordan Lewis is not a great matchup for Drake London out of the slot because Jordan Lewis is your more prototypical nickel corner. Drake London is 6'4", 220. So are you going to shadow Diggs? You're going to do a bunch more, if he can play, you're going to do a bunch more man coverage stuff? Do you try to do a lot of zone? How do you handle that? Because I watched Donovan Wilson get smoked on crossing routes by George Kittle. How are you going to handle Kyle Pitts in that fashion? Is it Wanye Thomas time? Is it Marquise Bell time? You got to make some changes here, guys. You can't play Donovan Wilson again. I hope they bench him. I feel bad saying it, but he's been bad. So will the Cowboys start Donovan Wilson? S for start, B for bench. Number 3, it is Terrence Steele. I take personal offense to the way that Terrence Steele was played these past 2 weeks because I defended him. I said, hey, he has not played that bad the way that some people feel he has. He had a rough game against the Saints. He's been showing progress. He had a bad rep against TJ Watt, even though he was on an island. I would argue his 2 worst games of the year have come since I backed him and said he's not playing that bad. He was bad against the Lions, bad against the 49ers. Now, why exactly you keep putting him on an island for 3 straight weeks against, even 4 against the Giants too, technically, against those pass rushers, I don't really know. But the Falcons aren't as good as on the pass rush. I need Terrence Steele to show up. He has to play well for me, or else the O-line's going to have major issues again. Number 2 player to watch, C.D. Lamb. And to an extent, Diggs or Lamb kind of said, we're back, baby, which I also don't disagree with. He was really good against the Niners. He showed up in a pretty major way. There was a moment I'm like, oh, God, here we go again with some of the body language stuff, but then he rebounded and it was awesome. He needs to get fed. I kind of appreciated the sheer volume of targets that went his way. Keep doing that. They got him involved in the second half of the game for the first time all year, it felt like. Do more of that. Let the Falcons don't put A.J. Terrell in the slot. Put him some more in the slot. Put him a lot on the outside this year, but got to show up. I think he's a good pick for first touchdown by the Cowboys. Who scores the first touchdown this week for the Cowboys? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Number one player to watch is Chauncey Golston. You're not going to have Micah. Golston's actually played pretty well, especially relative to expectations. He is clearly better than some of your other pass rushers, which the bar is so low, it doesn't mean that much. He's got to have another good game. There's a couple plays you can go, there's Golston again. There's Golston again. He's making plays. He needs help because he's not supposed to be the guy. He's supposed to be the guy who helps, right? But again this week, be a great week to have some more big plays on setting the edge on the outside and getting some pressures. I think he's played well, especially relative to expectations, but there's a lot more that's still needed here. Who you got in this one? C for the Cowboys, F for the Falcons. Let me know in the comments of today's show. 65% voting for the Cowboys. Very low. Very low on that front. So C for the Cowboys, F for the Falcons. We'll see how things play out. They can win this game. They just got to show up. So get those votes in, C or F. Ecuador man, a $2 super chat. Cowboys coming to hometown. Tom, welcome to Georgia. Hope it goes like the last few times you've played the Falcons. Maybe less stressful, but let's win that one. Ecuador man, Cowboys Hall of Famer Matthew Bergeron is going to eat. I'm scared. He's been coming along nicely. He wasn't great as a rookie, but he's taken a nice step forward in year two. But yeah, I'm sure the Falcons interior linemen are like, this is our game to dominate, the same way we mentioned about the Cowboys interior defensive linemen. You know? Big week for Bijan coming. Play him in all your lineups. Now, we'll be live for the Cowboys against the Falcons. Make sure you are subscribed, youtube.com/CowboysTV. Free Cowboys videos every single day right here on the channel. 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time kickoff. Different Halloween costume. Anthony McMillan delivered again. I think you guys will like it. Make sure you guys are locked in.